there is a lot of opportunity, but you got to find it and, put a lot of things out there because something's going to stick. A lot of people don't ask you, well, what can I do to help you? Ask for that first. People by people, if they like you, you have a better chance of selling something and making that connection.
You keep sharing your message because we've all got such amazing stories and experiences and skills that we can pass on, right, to people.
My advice that I would give to people is share kindness. You never know who you're inspiring. It's all about helping people.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Business Growth Show. I'm your host, Ethan Cassiotis, and today I have an awesome guest. His name is Tyler Sabado. He comes from a family of business owners where entrepreneurship and leadership have been integral values passed down through generations. And his Oma, which is grandmother in Dutch, who lived through World War II, shared incredible stories of resilience. She was neighbors with Anne Frank and knew her personally, an experience that profoundly shaped his family's perspective on courage, humanity, and determination. Welcome, Tyler. Thank you for being on the Business Growth Show.
Thank you for having me join. I'm all the way out here in Chattanooga, Tennessee.
Yeah, awesome, mate. And I'm all the way up here, down here, whichever way you look at it, in Sydney, Australia. So it's amazing that we can get on Zoom online and be able to do podcasts and everything like that with people all over the world. And I'm sure it's going to be an amazing show for everyone watching and listening today. And you are a successful entrepreneur. So for those people that don't know who you are, just introduce yourself by telling us more about you and your journey.
Yes. So as you said, that I come from a family of entrepreneurs, and I've always been around business my whole life. Uh, as a kid, I grew up around athletes and celebrities in my neighborhood, and it was always nice to talk to them and learn about their experiences they had. And one thing that I really enjoy is talking to people. My wife doesn't like it. I'll go up to somebody and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" or whatever, and maybe it's an athlete or celebrity, and whatever, and they say hi. They communicate with me, and my wife goes, "No, no, no," kind of thing. Don't talk to these people, but it's just the way I am, and I love helping others. And so it opened up a lot of opportunities for me in my business career.
Yeah. Awesome, man. I love that. And, I always used to say this to people, whether it's a work environment where you're dealing with like CEOs or, these high level people, or whether it's like an athlete, or a celebrity like that, they're just people, right? In the end, you don't have to feel like, there's this, big veil and you can't talk to them or anything like that. It's just being able to, just to connect, right, on those side as well. Is that what you find as well when you're going up to them and just generally, conversing with them as well?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Uh, but my career, how it started, being business minded at an early age, uh, back in the day, uh, before my freshman year of high school, I had a friend in Chino Hills, California, and his cousin was a DJ for a radio station called Power 106. So it's a hip hop radio station, and he would keep his equipment there, so he was a DJ. And so when I was younger, I learned how to DJ. And I take like my grandparents, so my Oma and Opa's, their record player, my mom's record player, and learn how to DJ. And so I started that business when I was young. They called me DJ Sourdough because my last name is Sabado. So when I played sports in high school, they called me Sourdough. So I kept that name. And, I kept that business till probably about my second year being married. We needed some money, so I had to sell my equipment. So I got out of that. So that was my first thing that I ever started on my own. And my grandparents, because they're Dutch, so they're European, they had their own deli. It's called the Anthony's Deli, and so I'd always help them cater. So I was around that, help them out. My family's owned a bunch of businesses, and so I've been around entrepreneurs my whole life. And then one day I was working at a call center, and I saw a need myself in needed, to what I was doing. You go to the store, you buy your energy drinks, your chips or whatever, every day you would purchase that, I'm like, hey, I know the owners, I work with the owners. I have a great idea for you. Why don't I purchase a couple of vending machines and put them in your office space? It was a brilliant idea because I didn't have to pay for storage or anything like that or electricity. So I decided, hey, let me, go ahead, let me put them there, and so they let me put them there. So I bought them. The story goes, I bought them for like, I think it was $350 for the both machines. It was a soda machine and a candy machine with chips. Uh, they were too heavy to take with me when I left the company, uh, but I was able to sell it to the owners for like, I think like $1,500. So I double or triple my money uh, with it. So that was a cool little experience. So one thing I really learned is, it's really nice to find the needs of people and work from there. Uh, One thing that I love using, and I know you're on it too, and I know that's where a lot of people connect, is LinkedIn. There's a lot of things on LinkedIn that people don't know about how to connect and build relationships. And my key thing is, I'm a kind person. I love helping others, and you never know who you're going to make an impact on. Your first impression is the best impression, and you got to share kindness. And so when you're online, especially LinkedIn, a lot of people are watching that, and you want to share the real you, let them know who you are, and people are watching. And I take pride in, you know, learning myself. Nobody taught me how to use LinkedIn. I learned how to use it, and I've taught people how to use it. And right now, I'm able to be a global connector. You know, a lot of people don't have the opportunity to make the connections, but when I message people and send messages to people, they respond to me, and that doesn't happen to everybody.
Yeah, I
So
love
that's
it,
a
man.
little bit about me.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. I love to unpack each of those. And maybe just while quickly on we're in LinkedIn, right? And I love LinkedIn as a platform as well. I think it's grown a lot, from just being, where you're working to now being a very big platform that a lot of people are on and to be able to connect with people. So because I think one problem I see is that people are using certain tools and they're just sort of spamming people a little bit, which is not ideal, right? Where you're just sending all these messages and things like that, where it's more about the relationship, the connection, right? That you're talking about. So, what's a tip or something that you can give people that are using LinkedIn that's going to allow them to connect more with people, to build those relationships better?
Yeah. So I mean, what I like to do uh, is say I'm connected with you, or I'm looking you up for example, whoever it is. Maybe it's an athlete, maybe it's a business owner, maybe it's a CEO, or whatever the location is, or what you're trying to find. A lot of people don't know this, but what you do, a tip that's helped me out, you pull them up, for example, and then you see who they're connected to. And a lot of times people don't know that if they're whoever they're connected to, that's a free lead system for you.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
then if
That's
you click on that person, it shows you who they're connected to. So it's a revolving thing, and not a lot of people know that or how to use that. And
yeah,
that's where I've been successful because now I'm able to reach who I need to reach and look for those kind of people
yeah.
because
That's
you never
amazing.
know who they're connected to. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
So
It's
that's a
it's
little
like
tip
that.
I have.
It's that 6 degrees of separation, right? Where people say, right, where you're connected, you can be connected to the president, right? Within six people or something like that. There. So it's those connections, like you said, really powerful. Yeah.
But yeah,
Uh,
that's my little tip on LinkedIn.
Yeah, thank you. That's really valuable, and I haven't really heard that before as well, Tyler. So a lot of people will say, "Oh, build a relationship," do these types of things. But I think that was very, very unique. I like that from a higher level perspective of going, who are they connected to? Connect with them. Understanding different leads or whatever your intention is. Partners, etc. From there, so love that side. Let's talk about the business journey now a bit more. So starting DJing, it would have been fun. And getting into that scene, I guess, of being around people and creating an experience. And what did you learn about that business? Do you think that helped move you forward into other business journeys later?
Yeah, so when I was a DJ, I wasn't, I didn't do any clubs or anything like that, but I learned how to market. and contact the people that I know, share within. So I did like school dances, corporate events, which I really like the corporate events because what happened was is I would go into like say a gym, and I was able to trade off. So they let me play on Fridays, and out of that I got a free membership. I've done events like at a car dealership. So, they had hot dogs, hamburgers, and whatnot, and I played music for everybody. And, weddings, and people were particular what they want in certain things, and what was cool about a DJ is, you know, you create something, so you make it your own. If there's people, want something, you got to figure out, people, what they like, what they don't like, and build from that. And I mean, things has changed since I've done it. Started with the turntables and the CD player. And then they had the laptops, and now everything's completely different. So uh, I'm actually wondering how AI is actually doing with in the music industry and DJing. I'm sure that's changed the whole thing too. Probably made it a lot easier.
Yeah, I love that. And I love the smart of the bartering type of thing there, right? Of going, okay, well, what can we do here to make it a bit more enticing to get gigs and get yourself out there more, and do that type of stuff. So that was a very, very awesome lesson. It's not all about money, right? It's about how can I, we can swap things, right? And barter in business. I think it's a great lesson, for someone there because even like reaching out to high level people, right? Sometimes it's like, well, if you can get them something or whatever like that, or barter with them on something that it's not necessarily be money, could be worth more to them, right, than the money that it is.
Right.
So yeah, I love that part. AI is going to be an interesting one. Definitely, it's changing a lot right now with chat GBTs and everything, making it quicker. And I think there's obviously a lot of music being created. So I think probably for the electronic music and other things, it would probably make it easier, right, to create beats and things from scratch, right, without having to manually do it back in the day, like you used to have to do, probably, right?
Yeah, I'm sure you could just tell it what to do. Chat GPT, hey, write me a song or whatever. I'm sure that's coming out, or people are already doing it. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing with licensing, right? Because ideally, it's not exactly the same as something else, and then you sort of want to create it as your own. So, it'd be interesting to see how that works. And I think that's where Spotify actually sort of changed the game, right? Because people were doing illegal downloads right before through Napster and LimeWire and all these sort of platforms, and then it sort of oh, well, let's just stream it. You might not get paid as much, but at least you're getting paid for it, you know what I mean? Depending on how many views and stuff. So I think that changed the game, right? As well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So so you did that. Some great lessons there on the marketing, on the bartering and everything side. And then you mentioned working in like your parents' shop and things like that initially. So which is a whole different experience, right? Because you're not just the main guy like in the front doing stuff anymore. You're sort of like in the background, right? Understanding more around the operations and other areas like that. So what are some key lessons or things that you learned, I guess, yeah, with that
Well, coming from entrepreneurship, uh, a lot of people don't have a budget for marketing. And so, me being smart, I did some research and learned how to do different things. And everything that I've learned on my own. Nobody's taught me anything. I've learned how to market and do things. And what was cool about certain things that I did, I took different markets that I was working with, and they're like these little peas on a pod, right? And all of a sudden, these little peas on the pod are getting these attention to find out who are these small guys, what are they doing? And it's just because the research that I did, and I was able to do different things with it. Like for example, a lot of people don't know this, but uh, with QR codes, you can do a lot with those. You know, there's a lot of tools to use them. For marketing. Uh, a lot of people don't know it doesn't cost anything to create one. You know, so those are the kind of things that I learned. And I learned, not just with podcasts they have now. They didn't have those back, when I was doing business. But there was a lot of things people could do. There's different things. You go online and they're talking about different things, and you could post stuff on there. And so it builds a following. It builds something for you. And and I realize now social media is important because when somebody posts something, it builds credibility for you. And that's my story, that I'm able to show people that, hey, I've worked my whole life to where I'm at right now, and now I'm able to use my gifts and talents that I have and help a lot of people. And that's what I'm thankful for.
Yeah. Amazing, man. Love that. Love those lessons. And about, just going, hey, I need to learn something. Let's just do my research, right? And it's, the information's there, really. Even more so these days, right? Making it easier. Even it's still back then. But just having that commitment, right? To learning and then going, figuring it out. Because it's not always, like marketing, you would understand this as well, right? It's not like if marketing was easy or simple, it would be like everyone would have $1 billion business, right? To some extent, like that there. So it's unique. There's an art to it as well, right? Where you have to understand the fundamentals and then work out what's the best way to market whatever I'm, doing in that way. Would you say a similar thing there?
Yeah, I agree with you totally on that.
Yeah, definitely.
And one thing I noticed though about marketing, there's not just one way to do it.
Yeah. And that's what keeps it interesting, right? And that's the, I guess, the fun game of business, right? It's like, okay, how do I crack this code? Like, let me try some different things. What are the benefits, like you were talking about social media, right? The connection, the authenticity, the credibility side of things. And I think this is where the rise, I'd love to hear it from your perspective, of the personal brand is coming up. I see more now where people are, when people buy people a lot of the time, right? So building yourself up on LinkedIn and social media and things like that, because they want to do business with you, right? In that way. Are you seeing that from your side as well?
Yes. And a lot of people tell me, "Hey, Tyler, you're a great salesman." And I don't say I'm a salesman, but I'm a people person. And going back, piggybacking on what you're saying, people buy people. If they like you, you have a better chance of selling something and making that connection.
Yeah. Awesome. And I know you do, if you do, you've got a lot of different businesses and things like that. And I know you help with like strategic business growth as an example, right? With businesses there. So, if you're looking at a business, just from a high level, like what are some areas that you would look at? I know obviously the marketing side you've talked about already, but what are some of the areas you would look at to go, okay, well, how do we sort of, take this business, to the next level?
Yeah. So the one major thing is ask questions. Ask them, "Hey, where are you at right now? What are you looking for? What are you missing?" Just for example, say marketing, they're missing the marketing piece. Maybe they are looking for somebody to help fund their business. Well, being a global connector that I am, I have access to those kind of people, and I have real relationships with them. And that's one thing that I've learned. You talk to anybody that I know, and if you want to connect with anybody, they'll say the same thing. These people that I connect with, I've actually have real relationships. So I can pull up my cell phone that I have, and some I say my back in the day they called it the Rolodex, right? But now it's my cell phone, right? And my high school friends, people that I know in my old neighborhoods, I still contact them, you know, and they'll pick up the phone, and that's a great thing to do is keep those relationships because you never know the impact that you have on people, and when you're going to need them, and when they're going to need you, and especially like on LinkedIn, there's a lot of eyeballs on there, and people are watching it, you know, and you see a lot of people comment on things and like things, and one thing I do see on there is people, some people are not genuine on there. In other words, they're just liking it to get the attention for themselves. But I believe in LinkedIn, there's needing to be more genuine people on there, really putting themselves out there, and tell them more about themselves.
Yeah. Awesome,
That's my
man.
personal thing. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. I like it. So, the power is in the question, right? The better the quality question and the more you can dive deep into things and understand what people want and then be able to help them with that, then yeah, that's what it's all about. And normally you need an external person, right? An advisor, coach, mentor, or someone like that to be able to drill down because sometimes, they're in their head, right? The business owner or something like that, and you need somebody externally to sort of help them get to that point too. Um,
Exactly.
yeah, so let's talk about relationships now a little bit more because from what my experience and from what I've learned is especially when you're wanting, let's say, to connect with higher level people, right, that have a lot more money, they're a lot more successful, maybe they're a celebrity, whatever, like that, right, that they have a following. Then to me it's all about adding value where you can, right? It's like, how can I add value to the relationship? Because then, you know what I mean? Eventually, there will be some level of reciprocation, right? At some point there, but with an aim of adding value first. So I'd love to know your take on this and maybe, if you could you give an example just to make it simple to people, because people might be like, how do I add value, right? To people like that there and keeping the relationship going, I guess, right? As well, which you're obviously very good at too.
Yeah. So one thing that somebody taught me is that when you're speaking with somebody, ask them, what can I do to help you? Find out what they need help with. You know, a lot of people don't start a question like that. Talking about something, a lot of people don't ask you, well, what can I do to help you? Ask for that first. A lot of people go into details on, hey, you got to do this, you got to do it this way. But ask them what they need help with. You know, that's
Awesome.
one thing that I've learned.
Yeah. And then, so let's say, because what I see sometimes, and I'm getting better at this myself, right, is that you can meet a relationship, right, and either two of things happen. Something happens relatively quickly, ideally, right, and you move it along. Could be a deal, a partnership, become a client, whatever. Um, or you meet them and then it just fizzles out, right, and then maybe later you're like, oh, it's been a year or longer. I want to reach out to this person, but it's like you sort of lost the momentum, so to speak there. So is there a bit of a thing that you work on going, well, I'm going to aim to sort of reach out, to this person, even if there's not an opportunity right now, like every week or something like that, or every month or things like that, just to sort of, I guess, keep the relationship going. I'd love to know, yeah, from your side of things.
Yeah, so what I try to do is, yes, sometimes in business, people don't get along or have differences or something doesn't work out. But I believe truly there's a reason why you connect with that person in the very beginning. They might not need you right now, but later on. And one thing I like to do, all my old contacts that I have, I like to once in a while send them a message. Doesn't have to be business related. Hey, how are you doing? Or what's going on? Or what's new? Or whatever it is, and keep that going
Yeah.
because people read it.
Yeah, I love it, right? So simple.
Yeah. Like a good example, there's something I'm working on right now. And what about, see, person I met in the pandemic, you know, when everybody had the pandemic, and something got introduced to me, then uh, all of a sudden now all these people are coming back together. So I introduced somebody and now all these pieces are coming back together. Many years later, it's like, that's a cool feeling that you have that network and you started something and you didn't see your fruit of your labors right now. But many years down the line, it makes a full 360. And right now, that's what I'm experiencing. And I'm very appreciative of that.
Yeah, I love that, man. And it's that delayed gratification, right? It's building something, for the future and not necessarily expecting everything now. But if you're doing the right thing by others and connecting and helping other people where you can, like, things happen over time, like that as well. So, yeah.
And right now, things are a little different for me because I have a wife and a daughter, and now I got to build a legacy and create something for not only my future, but my family's future. So it's a little different. The game's a little different.
Yeah, I completely can connect with that because I've got a newborn son now, almost 4 months old when we're recording this.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it definitely changes the game, right? Where you're like, okay, I've got this other human, that I've created here, and how do I, bring them up in the great things that my parents brought me up, but maybe remove some of the other things that were a bit more limiting, and be able to instill more of the wisdom and everything that I've done, that I've gotten over the years, and give them the best chance, right? There and whatever like that in what they're going to be creating in their future. How old's your daughter at the moment?
Yeah, my daughter, her name is Kaya, and she's 10 years old. We only got one, and it's amazing how these. I mean, when we were younger, we didn't have the type of technology we have right now, and it's amazing what these kids could do and with technology. And not too long ago, my daughter was on the computer creating a slideshow for her friends because they're having a sleepover or whatever. I'm like, I didn't learn that until I was, in you know, junior high, maybe high school or whatever, and it's like, man, these kids are going to be so, so talented, and they'll be able to use their gifts and create a lot of opportunities. And my daughter and all these young girls out there, they watch YouTube, and social media, and it's crazy because my daughter, she likes all the skincare right now. All these little girls like skincare. Man, I wish my daughter could put her face on a skincare, and she, they sell that, but with the YouTube, and the way people show things is because these little girls are, showing skincare. My mom and dad bought me this, now everybody wants it. And so it's really cool. And now she likes to do her own little videos, and she was telling me, oh yeah, I got these mini flower orders now. I'm like, oh, that's cool, I never did that kind of stuff. And so it's exciting for these new generation of kids. They're going to be able to create so much.
Yeah, I love that, and create their platform, just share on what they're doing. Have you got her involved business wise yet on things, whether it's skincare or other stuff like that in your businesses or things like that?
No, I have not.
Is that an intention at some point, whether it's her own thing or anything like that? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. It's always good to have something, you never know.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's I think even like you just said, the YouTube, the sharing, the videos, getting into things and just the products, that's a great skill, right? To be able to present and being confident, right? And everything like that. So yeah.
Talking about skills and confident, showing things. I've had the privilege a few times through this platform actually connect with people who are on Shark Tank. And what happened was is I'm not going to mention their name or anything, but their product they ended up not taking a deal uh, from one of the sharks because they wanted too much from them. But it was cool having that experience. I met them on LinkedIn, showed them what we had, and they wanted to add something to what we were doing. But you can't add something to the product that I had. And so it was really cool to have that experience of my experience, creating a possibility, and they want some advice from you. That was a really cool experience. And to this day, that happened probably about 4 or 5 years ago, and I'm still connected with these people. And as I said, you never know down the line, who you're inspiring.
Yeah. Love it, man. Putting yourself out there, like you said, and helping people, and you never know where it'll lead, right? One of my coaches always says it's one deal, one opportunity, one relationship, change your life forever, right? In that way. So you never know where it's going to come from. And if you can be part of that, right, journey, or someone does it for you, then it's really powerful. And let's talk around, I guess, mistakes and failures, right? I think this is an important topic because a lot of people are hearing all this good stuff of things, that you've done, Tyler, or seen, right? I love to know from your perspective because I know, entrepreneurship is not just a straight arrow up, right? It doesn't just happen like that. There's always bumps in the road, in the journey. Do you want to maybe just share a story, whether it's about you or someone, that around some mistakes or failures or something like that, and how was able to overcome that, you know what I mean, so that just to show that there's some real challenges that happen right on the journey.
Right. Well, I guess sometimes it's all about who you take advice from. You always have, you tell your friends, your family, and different things about it. Some of them, or actually, I'll just say this. Okay, right, your parents, right? Your dad or your mom, your dad always wants you to be the best at this. For example, your dad was a school teacher. Well, you need to become a school teacher, kind of thing. And so they always want the best for you, sometimes they don't agree with what you're doing, but you got to find yourself, and right now I'm at the point in life where I've learned all these things and what I've learned, and now it's a chance for me to make something of myself and take all my talents and build off of that, and there's a lot of people out there, I guess they say naysayers out there, but I really believe right now is the time for opportunity. And right now I know that there is a lot of opportunity, but you got to find it and, put a lot of things out there because something's going to stick.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at right now in life. There's a lot of opportunity, and I'm creating a lot of opportunities. Uh, by you having me be on your show, that's a big opportunity. I've never done a live podcast like this before for more than 10 minutes. So this is quite the experience, and I really appreciate it. Something I think I need to work on is, I guess, being more confident, be able to speak with people, you know, on live camera. I know I've been on camera before. I'll just share that story real fast, and I really like it. It's on my LinkedIn page, but there was an episode on Restaurant Impossible, uh, episode 8.1. I was on the episode with Robert Irvine on there, and it was really cool working with them, and what they did and what they accomplished. And I helped out with some of the construction they had on there. And just the way I grew up, I've always been around those kind of people. And so I worked my way into different things. There's some parts where I sat in places I probably should have sat, but their video and camera, and I was right there. I was always been kind of the camera likes me, and they've always liked me, the camera, for some reason. And but what was really cool is, I built that relationship, and he actually sent me a video, or I went in the back room with all of them in the crew or whatever, and he wrote a personal video of him talking to me, I'm your right hand man. And it was really cool having that, I share that with people all the time, but it was really cool to have something to back something up and show, hey, you are something, a lot of people might not see it, but it was a really cool experience. And
Yeah.
I have some pictures of that on my LinkedIn page, actually.
Nice. Awesome, man. I love that, love that story, and that, yeah, you're putting yourself out there, and it's like going to the gym, right? In anything that we do, the first time we do it, it's like, I haven't done a podcast for this long before, or I haven't, done a live video before, or I haven't, done something. But once you do it the first time, you're like, okay, that was relatively easy. I can improve, and then the confidence builds, right, and everything like that, and the confidence from there. So, it's been I'm happy that I was able to get you on the show now, and I hope that, yeah, you keep sharing your message, because we've all got such amazing stories and experiences and skills that we can pass on, right, to people, and podcasts now are getting bigger, right, in there, and this is something that you'll be able to, once you post it, you'll be able to pin this on your LinkedIn as well, right, in your featured section, and have it there so people can check that out, right, as another way of showing your authenticity and credibility, in things as well.
I would say my advice that I would give to people is share kindness. You never know who you're inspiring, and that's just the one thing that I thought. It's all about helping people.
Yeah, I love that one key piece of advice. That's the one thing I do normally ask at the end, and you got me to it there, right? It was amazing. You're preempting. We're in tune there as well. And I think I just want to reiterate the point about you said before about, like, your parents, right? And it's funny because my parents are high school teachers, as well, in that example that you used. And they don't understand. You were, I guess, grateful that your parents had an entrepreneurial background, right? So your growing up was, you were around this stuff normally. So you've been able to do that. Whereas someone like myself, I had to break the mold and hang around and learn other things, and they still don't understand what I do in business and things like that. But that's okay. They don't need to understand it, or like you said, the naysayers. There's a thing in Australia called tall poppy syndrome, just so you know, Tyler, right? Where it's like, if you get too good or you get too tall, they chop you down, right? They sort of, they don't want you to go. Whereas in America, it's almost like they want you to go really, really high, and then they chop you down, right? Once you're like really high there. But in Australia, they try and do it earlier. So it's definitely a mindset thing. And And I think that I'd love to know your perspective of like who you hang around, the importance of the people that you hang around in terms of where you're going to be going, right, in life and business. Love to know your perspective on that too.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So yeah, you shared so much value here today with us, mate. And you've given that one key piece of advice as well. And we connected, through our networks. I learned about your awesome journey from being, in a family of business owners to now being, a global connector and entrepreneur. You're an awesome guy. Share a lot of great value, lessons, simple things of how to think and what to do, right, in business, using LinkedIn as a tool, etc., right, and how to build, relationships, right, over time, with, that could really change your life and make a big impact, and that legacy that you speak of. And I'm sure you continue to make that big impact in this world. I'm very grateful that we connected and look forward to partnering with you as well. So Tyler, yeah, how can people find you and get in contact with you?
Yes, they can contact me on LinkedIn, Tyler Sabado. Uh, Also, my website that I have right now, sabadoventures.com.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, definitely check out Tyler there. His LinkedIn, it'll be in the show notes as well as the website. With everything that he's doing there. He's a very, very connected guy. I'm sure he's going to add a lot of value, that you'll learn from him on LinkedIn, and see what he's doing on the website as well, right? And Tyler, mate, it's been a pleasure interviewing you, and thanks for being on the Business Growth Show.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to this show where we talk about everything on business growth. And please like, subscribe, and leave us a 5-star review. You can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as Ethan Cassiotis, or visit my website, ethancassiotis.com. If you want to grow and scale your business, you can reach out to me on any platform to see if we're a good fit. I completely agree with you, or do I? The only way you know is if you tune in next time. So until next time, remember that our business grows when we learn skills and take action using them in spite of fear. So remember to design your growth and results.